Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Apologists, Ace Attorney. Last time I let you guys off, we pretty much figured out that we need to prosecute somebody else, and we happen to be prosecuting our boss. Also, we were given a card who apparently from a little girl who we've probably noticed somewhere before. She said this is going to be her trump card, and apparently it was her father who told her to give us this. And the only person we know of that would be knowing of this case would be Phineas Wright, so we definitely know that's Phineas Wright's daughter. Yes, a shock. That girl, I've seen her recently, but where? That's when I made a connection. Yep, that's her, a little older now. That little locket picture was her when she was a little kid. More will be explained about her later. I shouldn't actually spoil that, but it's a little information. I'm not going to spoil much on her because she's really important. Court will now reconvene. Defense Attorney Christoph Gavin, will you please take the stand? Great, we gotta prosecute our boss. This is not gonna bode well. Now then, if you would, Mr. Payne. Yes, Your Honor. Will the witness state his name and occupation? Is this farce necessary, Your Honor? Believe me, far stranger things have gone on in this courtroom. Fine, I'll play along. First, there's one thing we need to have made clear. How did you know about the secret beneath the victim's hat? By secret, I'm guessing he means the fact that Mr. Smith was bald. Forgive my curiosity, but what is it about this fellow's head, Your Honor, seems to have an inordinate interest in? Objection! Who could that have been? Holy whoa! I forgot he was there. I wouldn't call it inordinate, Mr. Gavin. Mr. Wright? What do you think you're doing, Wright? Wow, things sure look different from the other side. You know what I mean, Apollo? Speaking of looking from the other side, let's consider something for a second. The victim wore that hat all night, never once taking it off, except for that one time. That one time being the instant he was hit? Oh! Mr. Wright returned from reporting the crime, that hat was lying on the floor. Mr. Wright picked it up and placed it on the victim's head. In other words, in order to have to see Mr. Smith's bald head, you would have had to have been at the scene of the crime at the time of the crime. In other words, you have to be the real killer, is what you're trying to say. Not bad, Apollo. Hehehehe. Mr. Gavin? I'm afraid that I haven't been entirely honest with the court. What? Oh, I assure you I had the noblest of intentions. I did it all to protect my client, Mr. Wright. Yet, I'm afraid in the current situation I see little reason to hide anything. Very well. Allow me to tell you the truth of what happened that night. Here we go. Testimony time. If I remember correctly, this is our last attack on trying to figure out who the real murderer is. So this is about to hit the climax of case 1. Here we go. Finally, you may begin your testimony. Tell us, how were you involved in the events of the fateful night? That fateful night. The rage I sensed in that man that night troubled me, so I returned to the club. I went down to the basement and peeked in through the little windows to the hideout. It must have been right after the murder took place. The victim was dead, as he appears in the photo. A bald head, an unconscious girl, and Wright holding a bottle in his hand. I sensed that was not the best place for me to be at the time, and so I left. That's when the call came from Wright. You left the moment you saw the crime. What is wrong with you, sir? Sir? So you witnessed a murder? For better or worse, I missed the actual moment of the deed. Mr. Gavin, may I remind you that you are on Mr. Wright's defense team. Your testimony cleared the disadvantages to your client. It's clear the disadvantages to your client. What else could I say? I'm standing on a witness stand, after all. So you are, Mr. Gavin. So you are. I keep on thinking my phone is like... And you have to testify as you just did. You have to tell them you saw the scene of the crime through the little window. Mr. Wright? You had to say that. Because that was the only probable window of opportunity. Right, Apollo? Oh. I guess Mr. Wright's calling him out on a lie here. Mr. Wright, the defense should do the cross-examination, not the defendant. Mr. Justice, are you prepared? As ready as I'll ever be. Yes, Your Honor. I can't believe I'm going up against my Mr. Gavin. We're going to cross-examine our freaking boss. This is really weird. This is really weird. Okay, what you want to do is you want to actually press a particular statement in this statement number 5, the moment he brought up the guy's bald head. Yeah, we want to press this. Those were the only three at the scene of the crime. Dang it! It sounds like I'm having a hard time saying it. Those are the only 3 at the scene of the crime. Yes, as far as I saw, at least. Then we're back where we started. The killer was a defendant, Phoenix Wright. Who else could have been? But why didn't you talk to the police? 2 reasons. First, I didn't actually witness the very moment of the crime. Second, my office was asked to defend Wright. Even after seeing what I had seen, I couldn't abandon my friend. There must have been someone else there at the moment of the crime. Justice, I just said I saw no one, not a soul. But that goes against what Mr. Wright said. Ah yes, this mysterious 4th person, who could have conveniently been the real killer, I suppose. Glad to see we agree, Mr. Gavin. Let me pose a question then. Tell me, what possible reason did the real killer have to swap cards in the victim's hand? Perhaps you can show us a reason why such a thing could be necessary. How can I show something I couldn't find myself? Remember, Apollo, the card that was swapped out was the 5th ace. The 5th ace? Right. Well, Mr. Justice, the question of why the killer would swap out a card has been raised. Can you point to the real reason? Yes, we can. Actually, we were given the reason real conveniently right before this part of the case started. The defense will have to present evidence to the courts. Evidence showing the reason why a card was swapped out. Then go ahead and point out your reason, Mr. Justice. Why did the killer take the 5th ace? Go right here. This ace had blood on it. My reason is, this. Is that an ace? Why is it's got blood on it? Right next to the spade. What? This is insane. Why wasn't I told about this? Why? Could this be it? Could this be the missing 5th ace? Inconceivable! How could you? What are you doing with that card? Well, that's the thing. Why is Mr. Gavin so upset? Why indeed? It's just a fishy card for some fishy girl. Oh, that card, it's mine. That is, I picked it up at the Boris Bowl Club that night after the murder had occurred. I gave it to my daughter. Cards are her stock and trade, after all. No! Impossible! Unacceptable! The court can't accept this evidence. It's fraud! A fraud? How can you be so sure? What? I would think the only person who would claim it was a fraud would be the one who took the real card from the crime scene, the real killer. Allow me to elaborate. What if this trace of blood was the reason? The reason for the killer to take the card from the scene of the crime? Where are you going with this? Take another look at the photo and at the victim's hand. At the moment of the crime, his hat fell to the floor, and a trickle of blood ran from his forehead down the back of his head. Could a drop of blood have fallen on one of the cards? I suppose. The killer then took the card to hide the blood. Regardless, that evidence is not permissible. Oh? Right. Regardless of how you wasted the last 7 years you used to be a lawyer, you know what a serious crime it is to conceal evidence. Oh, we can discuss the finer points of our legal system later. What's important now is that I've answered your question. What are you talking about? You wanted to know why the killer would have taken the card from the crime scene, and now I've told you. That one drop of blood would have been decisive evidence, you see. Objection! This is baseless conjecture! Baseless! Objection! Who just yelled objection just now? Oh! The epic pointing finger! The epic pointing finger! He's back! Phineas Wright is back! Oh, I'm sorry, fanboy. Fanboy. Oh, I assure you, it's quite based. What? It's amazing, really. How a single drop of blood on a single card can lead us to the truth. It's quite simple. Well, Apollo? Yes? Try picturing the scene of the crime. Try picturing the scene of the crime in your head. This is actually the cool part. I actually like how they did this. The murder took place in the hideout. The body of a luckless victim was found at the poker table, and before the killer swapped a card out, there was a single card with a drop of blood on it in the victim's hand. Given this, there is one decisive problem with this scene. Whoa, what is it? Let's keep it simple, shall we? Given there was a drop of blood on the card, whose position in this diagram doesn't fit? I'm trying to remember here. Whose position in this photo doesn't fit? I'm trying to remember here. It's the victim. Well, isn't it the victim's position that's the problem? I don't follow your logic here, Mr. Justice. Well, look, the victim was struck on his head, sending him back in his chair. You think any blood will fall behind? You think any blood will fall behind the body, not on the table in front of him? Ah, take a look at this photo again. If he bled in this position, the blood would fall on the floor, not on the cards. Why, that's right. So, what does this mean? Incidentally, we're sitting in swivel chairs. Swivel chairs? Oh man. Apollo, try turning the chair around. Okay. We just turn this around. That chair was facing the other way? It would have to be. So, we have to assume that at the time of the murder, the victim's chair was facing the other way from the table. Sorry, I'm using my own words here, just made things seem a lot more smoother. Mr. Wright returned. When Mr. Wright returned from the informant of the police, which way was the chair facing? When I came back to the room, the body was facing as seen in this photo. That would mean the killer turned the chair back around. Let's take the next step. Look at the diagram once more. We know now the victim was facing away from the table at the time of the murder. But this creates another significant contradiction. Again? Let's test your reasoning skills again, shall we? Apollo, whose location on this direct diagram contradicts our new understanding of the crime? The victims, the killers, the witnesses, the second witness?